Welcome to Talking News. Chasing a Murderer. My name's Debbie. Please be kind enough to push that subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and hit that thumbs up.
I'm Joyce Kesse, and I am the mother of 26-year-old Jennifer Kesse.
And I'm Drew Kesse. I'm Jennifer Kesse's father.
Jennifer has actually been missing today. It is Tuesday, November 13th. It is actually 94 weeks ago today that Jennifer did not show up for work.
We are no closer to having Jen.
On the evening of January 23rd, 2006, 24-year-old Jennifer Kesse spoke on the phone with her family and boyfriend from her condo in Orlando, Florida. That's the last time anyone heard from her.
And that would be to find Jennifer for the good or the bad period. Simply want to know where my daughter is. Someone was thrown down on the top of the hood, arms spread out, and then dragged back, almost like off the hood, to the point where you can only see fingers.
I believe that there's a good chance that Jen's alive. In order for me to live, I have to have that hope that perhaps one day, Lord willing, that I will see Jen again.
In 2006, in Orlando, Florida, a young lady by the name of Jennifer Kesse had just recently bought her first place in an apartment, and she had done this all on her own. And on the morning of January 24th, 2006, this young woman just left her apartment and she was headed to work. Sadly, she never made it there. On January 23rd of 2006, Jennifer Kesse was last heard from around 10 p.m. She had actually talked to her boyfriend, Rob Allen, by phone that evening. Rob was in Fort Lauderdale at the time, and Jennifer Kesse was living in Orlando, Florida. Jennifer lived alone in this condominium, and she lived at Mosaic and Molina. That next day, January 24th, Jennifer failed to report to her job. She worked as a finance manager at a well-known timeshare company. According to Jennifer's parents, she was on top of the world. She had just gotten 2 promotions, and everything was just going perfect. Jennifer's mother, Joyce, gets a phone call asking if Jennifer is okay. And immediately she knew something was terribly wrong. And just a few days later, January 26th, Jennifer's black Chevy Malibu was found abandoned and was found at an apartment complex known for its high crime in Huntington-on-the-Green. It took a lot of pushing on Jennifer's parents to get police investigating, and eventually they end up recovering a surveillance video from the area where her car was found. The sad part of the story is when they recover this surveillance video, it is a horrible mess. And not only that, when they play the video, they notice this man who drives up in her car, he drops it off and starts walking away. The camera captures the guy, but police every opportunity to identify this guy or get any kind of clue of who he is obstructed because of a fence. It's just sad. Jennifer's parents did everything in their power to try to get the word out about Jennifer. They put out flyers. They had cars that were just covered in Jennifer's face and information. But 15 years later, they still haven't found any answers. Over the many years that Jennifer's been missing, police have questioned several people in connection to Jennifer's disappearance, but no arrests have ever been made. And the only evidence they can get off the vehicle that they were able to recover, they were able to get a few prints which belonged to the victim, as well as a large boot print near the gas pedal. Interestingly, the car had some damage to the hood, but we really didn't hear much on that until Fox News actually put its investigators on this story and started taking a closer look. And according to them, they suspected that there was a struggle on the hood of Jennifer's car, and the newly released reports, affidavits that Jennifer's parents sued for is now sharing new details so that they can hopefully find some type of new clue or tip that'll lead them to the missing girl. Inside these new released files, the police department wrote in affidavits that, quote, while observing the front of the victim's vehicle, the detectives observed what appeared to have been someone being pushed across the head of the vehicle, end quote. They also uncover a new witness, and the witness actually speaks to Fox News. She claims that she saw Jennifer's black Chevy Malibu swerving near the exit of Mosaic at Molina on the morning of January 24th, 2006. She said, quote, the car was moving erratically, end quote. But the woman isn't sharing who she is, and you can't blame her. She also said it looked as though two people were fighting over the steering wheel. At the time that Jennifer went missing, at her apartment of Mosaic at Millennia, it was undergoing some updates at the apartments or the condominiums, January 2006. And according to several articles, they say during the time that Jennifer goes missing, there are several construction workers that are frequently on that property, and that some of these workers were also allowed to live in the vacant condos at this complex. Now, what's important is Jennifer's mother says that her daughter felt uncomfortable around the maintenance workers employed by that apartment complex. Jennifer told her that, quote, they would just stop and leer when they saw her, end quote. Joyce also says that whenever workers entered the apartment for painting and repairs, Jen was always on the phone with us, and she would stay on the phone in the doorway of her condo until they had left. So investigators head to Jennifer's apartment, and they're looking for any type of clue that might give them an idea where Jennifer might be. And when they go through that apartment, they say nothing appears to be out of place. Her family arrived at noon on January 24th to look for her. A damp towel was found near the shower, and the unit was locked, suggesting that crime-like activity occurred outside of her apartment. They noticed that Jennifer's purse, cell phone, iPod, and briefcase were all missing from her condo. And based on all the information that police are obtaining at this point, they have to kind of go to the part or speculate that Jennifer was actually approached from behind as she locked her front door and possibly forced into a vacant apartment across the hallway. They're also suggesting that she might not have had a chance to fight back. Whatever happened to Jennifer happened fast. Jennifer had everything going on for her, like I had mentioned earlier. She was in love, she had a great job, she'd just gotten promoted, and she had just bought her first condo. She had an ex that she was still in contact with, and she was dating a new guy. Her boyfriend, who lived in Fort Lauderdale, which was only 3 hours away from her at the time, said that they did have a long-distance relationship and that they started spending virtually every weekend together. And as you can imagine, he was one of the main persons of interest. As always, the significant other is always going to be on the radar. According to Jennifer's mother, Joyce, she said that there was this time where Jennifer spoke with Rob and their conversation didn't go so well. And her boyfriend, Rob Allen, said that they did have a disagreement. And Rob mentions that this long distance relationship was taking a toll on that relationship. Rob says one of the last conversations that they had was she was a little emotional, saying, "Oh, I know that you don't love me. I'm not with you." And she just has a little bit of insecurity going on. He confirms that they last spoke around 10 p.m. Rob doesn't realize it, but that would be one of the last times he would ever hear his girlfriend's voice again. Rob says that he just never expected that, and it really never came to his mind that that could be the last time he would hear her voice, insinuating that he might have did things differently. According to Lauren McCarthy, another friend, she says that Jennifer was always on the radar with everybody, and that it was completely out of character for Jennifer not to respond to her friends or family. Jennifer's father, Drew Cassie, says they were in a frantic. They said that they were calling hospitals every few minutes, just trying to find out and see if their daughter's okay. They called the police again, and when they arrived at their daughter's condo, which was early that afternoon, a building manager opened Jennifer's locked apartment for them. Now, because the story's so big, I'm not going to go in huge details about this. I just don't have time, but Jennifer had just been on a trip before she went missing. So when her parents arrived to her apartment, they described that they see her travel bag, and it was like she just walked in the night before and just dropped her suitcase right where it was. As for the rest of the apartment, it looked as if a maid had been there, except Jennifer's bathroom. Joyce says, God loved Jennifer, but she's a little bit of a bathroom pig in the morning. So her makeup, curling iron, and all that stuff was all over the vanity. Wet shower, wet towel. You always hear that the first 48 hours of a missing persons case is the most important. And the fact that this family caught on to the fact that their daughter was missing very early on doesn't seem to pay off. The family gets no answers. There's a few witnesses, there's a few surveillance videos out there, and a few clues. But police are stumped, and years go by with no answers. But the family doesn't give up. It's also known that the family isn't very happy with the Orlando Police Department investigation, and this would become an issue years later, which we'll cover later on. Jennifer's mother, Joyce, believes that her daughter might have slept for sure that night before she goes missing. She says, I think she got up as she normally would to go to work. She feels her daughter has a very busy day. She goes out the door, locks the condo, and that's where the mystery starts. Jennifer's entire family is devastated by this, and they just can't find the answers they're looking for. Her brother, Logan Cassie, has a few ideas of his own. He's worried to death. He says it's very emotional. It's your sister. It's your family. It's your blood. I love her. He said when he arrived to her apartment the day after she went missing, he said that he started questioning construction workers working at the complex. He said that they were quite uncooperative. And he's known for quoting that in 2008, that things just didn't feel right, and as if the family wasn't going through enough. They say that police did not believe that Jennifer's case met the criteria, declaring her missing. They keep suggesting to the family that Jennifer must have had a fight with her boyfriend and would be back. Again, police deal with a lot of people that go missing, and a lot of times it means nothing. But it doesn't mean that you just say, okay, let's not do anything right now. Jennifer's father remembers that Jennifer's mother, Joyce, would always say, call the police. I don't see helicopters in the air. Call them. And after a bit of time, finally police declare Jennifer Kesse, missing. Something that the police were saying was bothering Jennifer's mother, Joyce. She said the police kept insisting that Jennifer went out in the middle of the night and were like, quote, "You don't understand. That's not how our daughter's brain works," end quote. Which makes sense after you hear them comment on the fact that Jennifer calls them because she feels uncomfortable about construction workers that are working at the apartment kind of glaring at her. And it turns out the mother's instinct is always right, because police find out later that the cell towers in that area had misinterpreted where Jennifer actually was that night and that she was never out. Joyce is like any other mother during this time. They are going to fight for their cubs. They are not going to give up. Nothing's going to stop them, and no one's going to tell them how to think or how their daughter acts. Joyce explains that Jennifer is the type of person who will call her mom or her dad. And when she was simply walking from the Target in the parking lot, it was dark out. Joyce felt this whole entire time that her daughter was abducted that morning. But still, though Jennifer's declared missing, the police were very quick to shut down certain things, according to Jennifer's father. And as you can imagine, if your child was missing, the hours went by, their panic become unbearable. And I know what this feels like when I cover these stories. You feel like you're running out of time. Jennifer's parents realized that they need to figure out things quickly as possible, because the more the time that passes, the less chance that they have to find out any information. So they started to take things into their own hands. They even set up headquarters in their daughter's apartment, and they began their own media blitz. And according to a few articles online, you could go anywhere in that part of town where Jennifer lived, and everybody knew Jennifer Kesse's name. They knew her face. The volunteers have worked with the family members, trying their best to post flyers, posters. Even the billboards in the area posted her face. The searches were massive. There were hundreds of people that come out to support the family and Jennifer. And her parents said when the police located their daughter's car, their heart just stopped. They had sheer panic. They wasn't getting any closer to any answers, even though they found that car. Now, Sergeant Roger Brennan, I hope I said that right, in 2008 said the most frustrating things were not knowing where Jennifer's at. He says, and most of all, not knowing where to look next. He said they sat around and discussed different ideas and different theories, but not having a concrete or solid avenue to go down or bring resolution to this family. If you look at the surveillance video that they recovered, it's very grainy. It's hard to see. Not to mention the obstacles that are blocking the face the entire way, because the surveillance camera only takes shots every so many seconds. And it seems to be timed perfectly when his face is in front of a railing. They have NASA actually upgrade this video to the point to where they can, it looks a little bit better, but still, it doesn't help identify this man that is seen dropping off Jennifer's car and walking away. I took a closer look myself, and I found that there are a few clues there, like what kind of haircut is that guy sporting? As I take a closer look, it looks more like an Asian haircut. And as I try to look in closer on his shoes and clothes, they're very strange type attire. At that point, I started researching Asian gangs in that area. And I noticed that they were big on stealing cars. Then I went back to the case to see if they had found anything close to what I was seeing. But that doesn't seem to be it, so maybe I'm wrong. But no matter what, it feels as if they're just missing something. And it's something small that can lead them to something huge. How many of you know the haircuts from the 90s? And you know that there were certain races that wore certain haircuts. It's just the way that it is. So I feel like that haircut is the biggest clue that they have in this case, as well as the clothes that he was wearing, because those clothes were kind of strange looking clothes, I thought. But the parents are not satisfied with the investigation and the investigators. Jennifer's parents are getting impatient and they want answers. The years are passing by and they have nothing. Just recently, the past few years, Jennifer's parents have been fighting to get the folders, the information, the affidavits from the Orlando Police Department. Jennifer's been missing 15 years now. They just feel like perhaps the police aren't not working hard enough, which could be not because they don't want to, because the resources are not there, the hours are not there, and it's only natural for a parent that loves their child so much to want to do everything they can for their child. They finally go to court and sue, and they get rights to the information. And now news media like Fox and several others are trying to help these parents that they know have been fighting years and years find new clues and answers to where Jennifer might be. I wanted to do a quick update on this story, and I wanted to go into more details, but I won't have time because we have Thanksgiving holidays coming up. I plan to make another detailed video soon in the future, and I want to ask everybody to please take time today to look over her story, look over everything about her, share her information. Maybe somebody knows something. My heart goes out to Jennifer's family. I couldn't imagine this happening to one of my children or even my neighbor's child. It's not something I would wish on my worst enemy. Could Jennifer still be alive? Her mother believes there's a possibility, a big possibility, that she could still be alive and just waiting to be found. Let's find Jennifer and bring her home. Thanks, guys, for watching. Love you, and I'll see you soon.